If launching a consumer brand is your 2025 goal, I have 7 tips to help you build a brand that is iconic. I'm a copywriter who's helped brands from Pepsi to emerging startups grow with strategic brand messaging. And here's how I would get started. Build the perfect avatar. Know your target audience isn't women from ages 16 to 30 and they like candles. That's not an avatar. That's a guess. Guessing is what will make you struggle with branding and marketing, and without great strategies on both of those sides, you sell no products. Guessing means you will struggle with brand identity, brand messaging, marketing, brand authenticity, and most importantly, sales. Create the absolute most detailed customer archetype. I mean, create a sim, basically. What exactly does your target customer look like? What do they want? What do they do? How do they get it done? You can do this by just asking yourself questions about this individual person. What is my customer frustrated with right now? Now that's the start of a really good avatar. Not just demographics, baby. We need desires and pain points, okay? Every brand I've worked with that had a really, really tough issue with their brand messaging struggled with either a weak or non-existing avatar. Fix this first or everything else will just be, you might as well just throw it in the trash, okay? Number 2, be clear about your values. In addition to your customer archetype, the individual person you have in mind purchasing from you, this will also help you create an all across the board consistent brand messaging. This will kind of guide your decision making with everything that goes on with your brand moving forward. Your values are pretty much your brand's decision filter. Without them, you'll agree to the wrong collaboration. Your copy and messaging all across the board would just sound very inconsistent, like it's multiple brands in one website. And essentially the product will suffer because nobody will believe in it. Pick 3 brand values. You can use a thesaurus, encyclopedia, whatever it may be. And then from there, write a sentence of how each of those values align with your business, how they show up in your business. What do those values look like in the name of your business? When I work with clients inside my brand strategy service, this is something I really harp on in our kickoff calls and their questionnaires and our discovery calls, because without this, I'm kind of just doing guesswork and I'm like, writing copy that's kind of like, I guess this kind of sounds like this. I guess this is what you stand for. Without this, again, we're doing guesswork, and we don't do guesswork because guesswork doesn't sell. This saves time with confusion down the line because we've brought clarity when we establish our values very early. Number 3, stalk the industry. Baby, the proof is on the shelf. One of the worst things you could do is I'm not going to pay attention to my competitors because I don't want to know what's going on. You don't know what is missing if you can't see for yourself what's happening, right? So for example, a very common entrepreneurial storyline is I didn't find this, that, and the third serves my purpose, so I created my own version of it, my own product, and voila, now I'm a multi-millionaire and I'm selling everywhere, right? So think about that type of a story. If you don't know what sells, if you don't know what people are responding to, what people don't like, if you don't know a little bit of the inside of the industry and its growth, you're kind of just going to be doing what? What's the common theme here? Guesswork. Now, stalking the industry doesn't mean you are constantly just being in your competitor's business and always being worried about them. It's not what I'm not telling you to do is take your eyes off of your mission and your goals, but be aware of your surroundings. It's like keeping your head on a swivel. You need to know what's going on before you're making any decisions, okay? Not being an expert in your industry is kind of like counterproductive. Don't think that paying attention to your competitors means you're distracted. It's free game. So what you can do is you can probably just spend like 1 hour a week researching your competitors, or going, if you have a product that you want to be in stores, go around and see to that section and see what's out there. YouTube reviews, comments, price points. Be an expert. When I do competitor analysis for my customers, it really helps us create a guide for how they move forward with their marketing, with the collaborations, with the partnerships of any sort that they move forward with once their brand continues to soar. And without it, like I mentioned, we're doing guesswork. We don't want to do that. And it helps them avoid very expensive mistakes, okay? I like to move strategically with data-backed strategy, okay? None of that vibe and aesthetics. We're not doing that over here. Number 4, brand personality and story. Without a story, there's no connection. And this doesn't mean once upon a time I was bored in my living room and I decided to go in the kitchen and whip up this concoction and now I made this hot sauce. No, I don't mean it like that. Consumers want to buy from brands that feel kind of human. So how does your product connect so well with your ideal customer that it makes them add it to their cart? Describe your brand if it was a person at a party. Like, what's their vibe when they walk in the room? Are they the extrovert, the introvert? Are they the DJ? Are they in the middle of the floor dancing? Are they on their phone? Like, what's their vibe? Okay? How do you spark a conversation with this person? How would you describe this person? What do they wear? How do they talk? Things like that. That's a really great start for a brand story and a brand voice. Thinking of your brand as an individual. This is probably my favorite service to provide for clients when they book me for the brand strategy, because your brand personality and brand story, that's what makes the rest of your copy like so unique and so you. When you have that established, it's like, oh, I know exactly how to talk to my customer archetype. I know how to implement my values into my messaging, because the way our tone, our voice, our story, that's all up and through there. Okay. Number 5, brand identity. Now, do not get this confused with colors, palettes, and logos. Think of your identity of how people feel or what they see when your brand comes about. Not just the actual physical product itself, but what's the vibe they get from your brand. Think of like a Starbucks versus a Dunkin' Donuts. What's the vibe of when you hear those two names? Because the vibe is kind of what drives that customer relationship. So when you find a designer, they need to mesh well with your copywriter. Like, they cannot be on two opposite sides of the spectrum where even their own identities and their own brands don't really match, because you end up having a very playful copywriter who wrote copy that you loved, but a designer that does brand identity and strategy that's more on the minimalistic side, or they're more luxury. Like, make sure the overall brand identity meshes well. Just try to think of, like, when I go over this with my customers who haven't yet hired their designer or their designer is up next, I kind of ask them, like, hey, how do you want people to feel about your product? When they have it in their hand, when they think about it, when they see it, like, what's that feeling that you want them to get? Number 6, launch slowly. The best thing you can do is give yourself time to troubleshoot. I get it, everybody wants to launch their brand and immediately sell out and fly off the shelves and da-da-da-da. But when you kind of progress too fast, you kind of miss that opportunity to problem solve, to learn, to switch things up, to kind of get your mind right, basically. Because when you're selling so much, you're just go, go, go. It's like fulfillment. It's like you don't have time to stop and smell the roses. So if you launch slow, you can allow yourself to receive feedback. You can kind of see how your workflow is going. You can ask questions. You can seek mentorship. You have time to breathe. And then this really just allows you to kind of improve the integrity of your brand, because you may not have it all at the beginning. You may have got lucky. Some of you have a lot of capital to start with. You got a great investor, things like that. But when you launch slow, you are putting yourself in a great position to kind of like have a long and prosperous brand in the industry, because you got all the time in the world to make things right. So the best brands I've worked with are the ones that give themselves time to get it right. Like, they're patient and they understand things take time. They have a respect for all of the moving parts of their business, and not just, I'm paying this money so it needs to get done this way immediately. Like, if they want their brand to last, they're going to invest their time into it just as much as their money. Okay? Number 6, prioritize an email list. I get it. Social media is king. If you're not on social media, then you're losing, because you need the brand exposure, make content, blah, blah, blah. You do not own your followers. You have no idea sometimes why somebody followed you or why someone engaged with your post. You could have just had a very pretty post, they clicked it and they moved on. But you do own your email list. Those people at least took time to spend a little bit of time on your brand. So when you own an email list, you have direct communication with your ideal customer. Remember that archetype I told you to write in the beginning? More than likely, the person that subscribes to your email list is that individual. Think of like social media as the billboard you rent, and then email is like the storefront you own. You got all the flexibility to do exactly what you want with your own storefront. And there's not really a time limit on it. Okay? Don't think that paying attention to your competitors means you're distracted. It's free game.